pretzel crust fans, rejoice because it's back. By popular demand, Little Caesars large, soft pretzel crust pizza featuring a creamy cheddar cheese sauce, pepperoni, and a 4-cheese blend surrounded by a delicious salted soft pretzel crust for just $6. Hot and ready every day between 4 and 8 and only $6 from the home of pretzel crust pizza, Little Caesars.
Pizza. At participating locations plus tax.
You are listening to Christ Realization Radio, where you will discover the reality and the essence of your presence. With programs brought to you by Project New Humanity Communications. You are listening to Turning Points and Transformations with your host, Bryan Rice. Will today be the day that you have your breakthrough in consciousness? It is time to be uplifted. Welcome and joy to you. This is a rebroadcast of a 2012 episode from the Way of Consciousness Radio Network.
Allowing and accepting the now meditation. I accept the concrete reality of things I cannot change, all that of which is immutable. I accept the moment of now without needing to react with force or resistance of a mental and spiritual nature. I allow reality to be what it is at this moment and release the need to control, judge, manipulate, or obsess over what seems to be an overwhelming motion picture of events and happenings on the screen of the world. In reality, it can have no effect on me because there is a more real reality beyond the veil of Maya. I accept that I live in the world, though I'm not of it, and starting this moment, I ground with the Mother Force Earth energy and solidly plant my feet on the ground. I accept and commit to looking after my survival, the needs that I have, and those I am responsible for. I allow all of the insane egoic dramas played out by many people on this stage of life. I recognize that there are many players and that no one person is more special than any other. No single actor on this stage of life has more importance than another. Rather that all people are equal in the eyes of the divine mind consciousness. I allow others to live their lives as they please, freely, without feeling the need to judge, belittle, or interfere in their affairs. Things and people and situations are what they are, and all I need do is but have the right attitude and outlook that all is perfect, good, loved, and acceptable. Therefore, I will not allow any external events or happenings to be subject to scrutiny of any kind by my egoic ahamkar. I accept the fact that everyone has their own individual karma to work out, and that when filtered through the ego, I have the tendency to compare myself to others. Instead of playing the comparison game, I realize that life is not a race to an imagined finish line. We are all wired differently, to attain, to achieve, to accomplish at different speeds. I allow others to attain their dreams and desires freely and faster than me. For all is as it should be, and that I too will attain my goals through patience and perseverance, with the God-appointed power working in me, and at the time past karmas dissolved and transformed, so as to allow my intentions to manifest in the manner that I visualize them in. I accept the fact that I am the author of my own destiny, and that my thought culture has the power to influence manifested reality for good or for ill. I respect this power and seek to rightfully use it. I realize then that my thoughts are images I have made, and what I think has the power to materialize. Because my mind is one with the mind of God, no matter how separate it may seem to be, to exist apart from that one mind. Thoughts are building blocks to what I see, so what I think becomes what I see. When I think and feel love, 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 I am in what is the most real reality. It is through thoughts of fear that I miscreate and manifest states of self-made hells, creating the delusion of life, apart from unitive bliss oneness with divinity. Divinity is all there is, that I know now. But this really long trials and tribulations of cultivating the right thought and bright mindfulness in the midst of life's storms. I am the primordial calm nature of consciousness bliss existence, Sat Chit Ananda. This truth maxim is at the nucleus of right manifestation. It informs my every choice. I accept what I cannot change and am inspired to recreate, remanifest what I do have the power to alter for the common good of created consciousness and form. Life will serve me with challenges and hardships, this I know, but how I rise to meet them is a reflection of my godlikeness. So I will do so in the spirit of courage, seeking moderation along the way, regulating and respecting the power of thought to materialize and magnetize. I also accept the fact that not everyone will like me, and there will always be people that don't agree with me. But as this is so I let it be, for these things are beyond my control, and of so little concern to the real true self in me. As long as I am guided by my truth identity, or Satnam, nothing can harm me, nor cause me pain. It is identification with the ego, or falling out of alignment with unitive consciousness, that gives me the perception that pain can be felt. So, I lay the ego aside, allow all things under, in, and out of the heavens to be exactly as they are, withholding all projections of my egoic mind from all that I see. I take back all projections onto the world I see. Instead of projecting, I choose love and truth. And the truth is true, always. Hello and welcome to Turning Points and Transformations. This is Father Bryan Rice, coming to you here on this Wednesday evening, fall evening in the Northeast, joining you from Western New York in the Finger Lakes region, and it's right around peak time for the trees being at their most beautiful and well, necessary expression as part of the life and death cycle, the rebirth. and all that occurs in nature. Couldn't spit that out. I apologize. Tonight I wanted to talk about the reality of hitting rock bottom. Not so much what that is all about, what it feels like, because chances are many of us have felt that and have been there. And truth be told, we go through life having many experiences of rock bottom. We really should, in order to truly offer up the ego, to be able to transcend the ego because of all our pain and suffering. You know, a great deal of misery is self-created, and it has a lot to do with our attachments and with desires. And not that desire is a bad thing. Desire energy is a holy thing. It's a very good thing. It's how we use it and to what extent we seek to indulge in desire, how much of it is oriented toward outward things, towards the sense objects, towards gratifying sensual needs. Now, there's nothing wrong with the senses either. We should actually seek to, as John O'Donohue speaks of in Anam Cara, transfigure the senses. Yes, that we should have an experience of transfiguration, of light presence, or the emanation or the coming forth of the true nature of the purpose of the senses, which is to experience the goodness and greatness of our created experience that we happen to be a part of, as we are in co-creation with the infinite divine mind at all times, whether we like it or not. Whether we care to admit it or not, we are co-creators. And part of fulfilling that role is having the courage to accept reality for what it is. As I cared to share the affirmation that was shared in the Acceptance Now program here on Turning Points and Transformations a few weeks back, and received great responses. It speaks to, I think, something that's very universal. We all create miseries and sufferings for ourselves, and we want to do the best we can to minimize those experiences. And all I can say tonight is that in the process of self-emptying, when you really come to get down to the nitty-gritty of things, and you really want to be radically self-honest with yourself and with other people, it's really hard to accept this, and it takes a great deal of humility, but we have to be able to surrender to the fact that most of the time we are incapable of feeling or experiencing true, genuine love for one, ourselves, and two, other people. And I say this not with grim shock factor, shock-seeking factor. No. Yogi Bhajan, who brought Kundalini Yoga to the West, happened to say something in one of his teacher trainings about what I'm speaking to. The idea that when we really are totally honest, radically self-honest, we don't know how to love, or we don't love, that is. And why is that? It's not because, we don't love ourselves. It's really because we either haven't, mostly because we haven't allowed ourselves to feel loved. We haven't felt divinely loved beyond conditions. And not every one of us is lucky enough to have had the experience of unconditional love in our lives. And, there's so many reasons for it. We all experience lack, and the experience of lack creates suffering, and we tend to dwell on that, and we tend to focus on our victimhood. So there's no real reason for us to take this program in a direction where we're self-pitying
or self-belittling any more than we already do. That will do us no good. The heart of the message tonight really is that we have to surrender to the fact that we feel a deep void, that we feel a deep need to feel secure. And any striving that we really do is an effort, whether from the ego or from the true self, to experience love and to share love and to extend love. So what do we do if we really had unfortunate circumstances, or we came from a broken family, or we came from a dysfunctional situation, or we came from a lot of, where we were born into disease and from the very beginning seemed to have a raw deal, get a bad hand of cards dealt to us? Well, attitude, altitude, latitude, and longitude, they're all related. How high we're able to soar and transcend and rise above the experiences of limitation, how well we're able to, I guess more so, how able we are, what capacity we have to reach deep inside, to really admit that what we really want is love, not the idea of love. That's where we get into trouble. When we're attached to the idea of love, or to a projection, or to a fantasy, or to some self-concocted idea or story, drama, line of thinking, then we're going to continue to perpetuate misery. That is, if we indulge in the temptation to go off on these tangents, to go off on these little trips into, well, self-belittlement, as I was referring to it before. Getting back to the idea of rising above, it takes a great deal of courage to accept reality, because reality is we experience it in a way that Hindus would call it Maya, or illusion or delusion, the mass experience of delusion or relativity. The experiences that we have in relativity or in Maya seem to be really very real and concrete, and very much are experiences that we do go through. We can't deny that we live in a world with physical constructs, physical material reality. We are in the world. We are in a world, though we are not of the world, and we're going to continue to be in this world as long as we're really supposed to be, for the purposes of our evolution of our consciousness. And whether you believe in predestination, or whether you believe that each of us has our own karmic destiny or fate, or any of those things, there's going to be some variance, obviously, out there in the land of listenership here. But again, those things that we experience, the suffering we experience, the feelings of lack and frustration, the feelings of being denied love, being denied the experience of having unconditional love given to us from the very beginning, maybe, or along the way, certainly. Those things are real artifacts of our self-development and our personal unfoldment. How we respond to those things and those challenges really are the artifacts, really are the things that will remain as a part of our personal legacy, so to speak, the memories of what will live on for those of whom have known us. So, and again, I don't speak of legacy, creating a legacy in an egoic way at all. I just mean that, honestly, if we really got radically honest, that is, we all have an emptiness within us, and we're constantly seeking to fill that bottomless pit. That is, if you have not experienced the sense of being a beloved. And we can mask this in so many ways, this void, this emptiness that we feel, and we can seek it. Okay, yes, some people will point to and will say, okay, some people self-medicate. Well, I think we all self-medicate. It doesn't matter whether it's with a chemical substance or abuse towards some type of substance, or if it's by even in helping other people, surrounding ourselves by other people to feel loved, to feel needed. There's so many ways that we indulge in illusion that it's so hard sometimes to see the truth of our real essence, the essence of our presence, which is something I'm going to hopefully explore in a series of webinars on the Enneagram, which is a tool and an archetype for basically the 9 faces of the soul and how we experience the soul in this lifetime. And that's a whole other topic in itself. But discovering the essence of our presence takes radical self-honesty, and with the radical self-honesty, we really do have to admit that we do feel emptiness at some level, and that we seek to fill that emptiness with external things, if not money, if not things or objects, with maybe even relationships and people, and codependencies. Codependencies can be on people. Codependencies can be experienced with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good friends. We might come to rely on those. And those people are graces and blessings. And I'm not here to condemn friendship or relationships, but the only real true soulmate that you have, I'm sorry, it's not the one you're married to or the one that you are partnered with for the rest of your life or have chosen to be partnered with or to be wed to. It is you. Your soul is your soulmate. And I am quoting Yogi Bhajan again from the Kundalini Yoga tradition. And it doesn't matter who said it. Maybe other people have said it throughout time. There's the saying that the only person you can really ever rely on is yourself. Well, just today I was listening to an audio program. I was reminded of what seems to be a painful experience, which is only pain experience because of the choice to indulge in ego. The painful reality or the realization that takes place that love many times is an idea created in the mind, a feeling or emotion or a current in the mind. And what happens is we don't really experience the essence of our presence, which is love itself. Now, who am I trying to speak to? I think a segment of the population that's tried everything, that's tried the born-again, I found God experience, quick fix, head trip, whatever floats your boat, whatever seems to make the most sense, which brings you hope. for only a short time. There's a lot of types of conversion. But conversion is an ongoing process. And I don't mean even conversion in a religious sense. I don't mean conversion to a set of dogmatic beliefs or to a new set of ideas or to a new set of words, laws, rules, or people to be in obedience to, or people to be submissive towards. We construct so many false realities, and religion is a huge mask is a huge part of the self-constructed limitations that we put upon ourselves. We can use religion to mask the idea that at the really core, deep down inside, we feel, once we realize that we are full of shit. I'm sorry, we have to realize that we are. And this is a PG program. But we are full of it. Our ego is. Not us, not our true selves. Once we get that, once we get the fact that we have constructed false realities, the healing can begin. The healing can begin. And we can go on for years and years of living in delusion, or living in illusion, or living in perceptual distortions, until we have a miraculous experience of a change in consciousness, a change which again can be also termed as a conversion of sorts. A conversion from one state of consciousness to another state of consciousness, or from one level of calibration or frequency to another level of frequency. Frequency of feeling, frequency of belief, frequency of energies, experience in and within the self. And if evolution wasn't a part of our lives, wasn't part of all of life and all of creation, things would be very boring and we would be very stagnant. We have to admit that, at least within the species themselves, that we evolve. And that we as a species, as a human being, as a human population have evolved. We're not vegetative. Some people are. Some people, unfortunately, are. And they're stuck in that. And they have disabilities and they have experiences of handicaps that seem to unfairly trap them in what seems to be hell for them. But again, ignorance is bliss. People say, oh, I wish I had the life of my dog or my cat. They get to sleep all day, they have their food prepared for them, and they're taken care of. They're given a warm place to sleep. Sleep, eat, and crap. As long as they have a place to do that, they're fine. And, a warm body maybe to lay with. Well, I wouldn't want to be vegetative. And I don't for a minute, though, believe that the Roman teaching that animals have just a vegetative soul, though they might. I believe there is self-awareness and there is a consciousness that is present and will be present after they pass in this life, and that these animals do not part from us truly, whether we are still here or we have gone and they have gone. No. There's a lot of proof for it in the supernatural and the paranormal and also the spiritualism movements. But we're not going into a topic about that. I just want to say that evolving does take surrendering. In the surrendering process, through it, we have to shed shells, layers, peel the onion away, and get to the core of things. And it really, the root of all our problems and the root of all our suffering is really that fact that we feel empty, that we feel we are not loved, or we are incapable of being loved. And in order to do that and find that and experience that, we have to go out and find it somewhere in, like I said before, external things or in people. Some of the loneliest people are the people surrounded by the most people in their lives, whether they're part of big corporations, big offices in which they work, or big congregations in churches or in temples. Some of the loneliest people are the most religious people. Some of the loneliest people are the most holy people, or seemingly so. What is it that drives a person to their worst, to the absolute low, to despair? It's not just self-hatred. It's not just depression, or it's not just a biochemical reason for wanting to, or to contemplating expiring from this life, from leaving this life. I'm not a fix-it man. I can't fix everyone's problems. I'm not trying to fix everyone's problems, but I know, and I can speak from the fact that I know what it's like to feel lonely and to feel despair, and to feel totally desperate. But when you realize when you're at your worst, you're alone, that you are not alone, that once you realize that you are not alone, and that other people experience these things, experience the alienation and the estrangement that comes from feeling unloved. When we convince ourselves that we are unlovable, that, I'm sorry, is the be-all, that comes to be the be-all, end-all, and that sometimes is what ends it all. Sadly, for most people. And some people tragically do not survive suicide or the contemplation of ending their life. This program tonight is not about trying to talk you out of it if you're experiencing despair and you're at your wit's end. And forget the guilt involved. With even contemplating it, or afterwards, if somebody has made you feel guilty for ever thinking that you may want to make that choice, forget about the condemning teachings about you're going to go to hell, it's the unforgivable sin, all those things. Now, we're not here to talk about types of intervention. I'm not a therapist. I was a suicide prevention counselor, yes, but I'm not going to play that card. I'm not going to pull that card. I'm not going to pretend to be the one who has the answers. I'm not going to say how you should talk somebody out of it. Because if somebody feels unloved at the very core, and they have never felt loved or affirmed by either their parents, society, or God, the experience of the indwelling God, God's self within, if they haven't experienced that, there's almost nothing you can do. And I'm not here to promote hopelessness and helplessness. There is a way out, though. If there's anything, if you're in that position, there is a way out. The dark night of the soul, many of us go through it, even on the spiritual path. And it's part of the spiritual path. But we, as my spiritual director once said to me, we have to cling to the dark cloak of God in our times of suffering. Because God is even in that. The divine is even in that. The only point of being alive, of being self-conscious, I don't mean self-conscious like being critical of oneself or being hyper-aware. I mean of being totally aware and awake. Being awake. Now, lost my train of thought for a second there. There's thousands of reasons we can concoct, thousands of ways to justify why our experience of being a victim is the most tragic experience that anyone could go through. We can rise out of the victim role. I don't have all the answers. I don't have the wisdom of some of the sages who are much older than me. I can only express what I've been able to experience and share and realize, and what I've been enlightened, using what I've been enlightened by. And I think the idea that Eckhart Tolle talks about so well in his works, the pain body, that accumulated presence of pain stored within the body that we don't like to deal with, that lies dormant in many cases. Not just on the mass level or the personal level, but not just on the mass level, but on the personal level, many people's pain bodies are very thick and dense. Many of our repressed experiences, repressed pain, it just gets pushed down and pushed down and pushed down until one day we snap. So part of our experience of rising from rock bottom is to experience and bring to consciousness the pain body. When we've been able to bring the pain body to consciousness, we can see its unreality, when we can see what it's created for us, how it's limited us, how it's held us back, how it's weighed us down. Then we can begin our ascent. Spirituality is about descent and ascent. It's not just about climbing the ladder. We have to go down, we have to do the soul work, we have to do the depth work within ourselves, within the subconscious realms. We have to free up our subconscious sufferings, memories. We have to set them free. We have to release them. We have to release ourselves from the burden, from the weight of the pain body, the weight and gravity of our emptiness. In order to be filled, you have to empty yourself out. So hitting rock bottom is not a bad thing. Hitting rock bottom could be the first step in your transcendence. Almost a prerequisite for bliss. The Buddha didn't become enlightened just by snapping his fingers. He delved into some of the most aesthetic ways that were so life-depleting for him ultimately in his life, to the point where he was emaciated. He thought through self-denial he would find his answer for the dilemma of suffering. Self-denial is part of liberation, part of rising up, part of coming into consciousness or becoming awake, but it's not the only part. It's not the only facet. So I think that hitting rock bottom is a prerequisite for mystical experiences. It sometimes follows mystical experiences to ground you. It serves to ground you. To help you remember that you, though are divine, are human as well. And in order to experience the finite, we have to know our limitations. We have to know that we are also finite in order to truly experience the infinite. We have to know that we are in some respects finite. And that gets back to what I was talking about the Hindu belief in Maya or delusion, or the experience of the pain body. Now, the really true thing that we really want, which nobody cares to admit, is union with God. It's not the Lamborghini. It's not the $25 million contract that I held out for in training camp, played a drama, little manipulative game to increase my salary. It's not those things. It's not the mansion. It's not the perfect relationship or perfect lover. It's not even the perfect romance. I'm sorry. It's not. It's the experience of divine communion, of divine union with bliss, with your bliss nature, with the infinite within yourself. And when you experience the infinite within yourself, you are capable of loving, because you are love itself. You have love itself burning from within. Any other experience is a sham. Any other experience than the divine flame, the divine fire within yourself is an imposter. We must realize that. The ego will never, ever bring us to true transcendence. We can climb every ladder in society. We can climb every attempt at rising to, or we can climb any ladder in an attempt to get to the top of the social classes, the ladder of social classes or castes. We might think that rising up from going from rags to riches is the ultimate dream. But we have to know, we have to experience, we put ourselves in poverty. And that You can still have this holy burning desire within you of the experience of unitive oneness or communion with God, and you can be wealthy. But it doesn't mean that you're attached to your wealth. If you are truly in communion with God, with the divine, you are in love with the divine. Chances are, even though you may surround yourself with the 10,000 things as is spoken of in the Tao Te Ching, you're not attached to those 10,000 things. There's a difference. You can be truly happy with wealth. Affluence. And naturally it'll come to you. Unless you've taken vows of poverty and you experience wealth in a different way. But ultimately, we put ourselves in poverty consciousness when we live out of lack. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about courage and fearlessness. How can we cultivate it in times of need? Well, through radical acceptance. Accepting consequences of your choices. Looking at the big picture. Seeing how your choices can affect other people. People you may care about. People maybe that you don't care about so much, but people that might care about you. There's so much more to be said. But if you don't have the desire to live or to go on or to keep on pushing ahead, you're tired of the rat race, you're tired of the struggle, you're tired of suffering, you're tired of misery, take a look at the first primal relationship in your life. Radical right. The first primal, radical right relationship with the divine. If you're filled with the burning desire of love, the last thing on your mind will be taking your life. Well, how does a person get this? It's not through achieving or attaining or striving or struggling. It's through surrendering. It is through surrender. And so my prayer for everyone tonight is to be free. Free enough to experience, free enough to receive the divine indwelling. The divine indwelling God's self, Christ's self, Buddha nature, Krishna consciousness. The Atman, the soul, spirit, true self, the enlightened self. Get right, get honest, bring everything to God. If you're ticked off, you can't take it anymore, put it in the hands of the divine. I'm not saying you need to subscribe to the 12-step method, but it takes surrendering to a higher power, a power maybe even if it's just your higher self, but truly, honestly, you will still feel empty. That might get you by and restore you to hope for a while and contacting your higher self, but it's ultimately experiencing the God dwelling within. That of which is spoken of by the mystics, that will get you through. If you haven't experienced it, pray for the experience. Demand for the experience. Don't beg for it. Don't beg in desperation for it. Command it. Command that it be yours. Command that you be loved. Command from the divine that you be loved. That you feel love within yourself so you can rise above. Thank you. Good night.
Just one final thought to leave you with. Please check out my website, bryanrice.org. That's BRYANRICE.org, where you can find information on how to buy and how to get your hands on some music that has encompassed my journey, that has been a reflection of my journey, as well as meditations and affirmations set to music that are uplifting and meant to empower you. Thank you. Divine bless you, uplift you, and keep you. Om. Shanti. Peace. Amen. You have been listening to Turning Points and Transformations with Bryan Rice. We hope you have enjoyed your program today. Together, let us help build the new humanity and seek to become one with the divine presence of all there is.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hey, Jamie, it's me, Jamie. This is your daily pep talk. I know it's been rough going ever since people found out about your a cappella group, Mad Harmony, but you will bounce back. I mean, you're the guy always helping people find coverage options with the Name Your Price tool. It should be you giving me the pep talk. Now get out there, hit that high note, and take Mad Harmony all the way to nationals this year! Sorry, it's pitchy.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
160,000 miles. That's on average how often you'll use your car insurance. But what if you could get help with more often? Maybe save a couple of bucks on clothes or at restaurants. What if you could even get rescued roadside when a tire goes flat or your battery dies? You can, when you're a member and your auto insurance is AAA. Insurance that's not just insurance. Talk to a AAA insurance agent or visit AAA.com/insurance to learn more about how AAA works at every mile.